case of a nuclear explosion.
This is a Fourth Rider news break.
Radio Free Europe sues Trump administration for cessation of funding. Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty are suing Kari Lake and the Trump administration over efforts to defund the organization. Just recently, President Trump signed an executive order with the intent of eliminating the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which funds the radio station and Voice of America, VOA. The lawsuit was filed in federal court in Washington, D.C., stating that the radio station's funding was frozen and $7.4 million is still outstanding, represented by an invoice that was also submitted along with the filing. The station claims the freeze is a violation of Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, which grants Congress the power of the purse to approve spending in the federal budget in the Appropriations Clause. The lawsuit states whether to disburse funds as directed by appropriations laws and whether to make those funds available through grants as directed by the International Broadcasting Act is not an optional choice for the agency to make. It is the law. Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty publishes content in 27 languages for 23 countries across Europe and Asia, reaching weekly over 47 million listeners. Stephen Kappas, the network's CEO, stated, "This is not the time to cede rein to the propaganda and censorship of America's adversaries. We believe the law is on our side, and that the celebration of our demise by despots around the world is premature."
French President Emmanuel Macron initiates discussions with European allies about France's unique strategy on nuclear deterrence. Macron has alluded to France assisting other nations as US President Donald Trump raises questions about the transatlantic alliance and the defense of Ukraine. Macron's offer has gained priority consideration most recently after Trump's remarks raised concerns among European NATO allies that for decades counted on the US deterrent. During the Cold War era, the US nuclear umbrella was created to guarantee that allies and NATO members would be protected against threats by the support of American nuclear capabilities. This pact is the primary reason why many nations across the world haven't acquired their own nuclear arsenals. EU leaders are set to address this defense alliance during a special summit in Brussels.
China's trade commitment to least developed countries. China's initiative to offer zero tariffs for underdeveloped countries that it has diplomatic relations with has greatly advanced trade possibilities that are ushering in a new era of shared prosperity and collaborative growth. In the last 90 days, trade between China and these countries, including 33 African nations, has experienced notable growth, fostering new avenues for economic development and partnership. The implementation of preferential tariff rates for LDCs not only lowers tariff expenses for Chinese importers, but also boosts the competitiveness of exports from these countries, significantly enhancing bilateral trade. This comes at a time when the Trump administration insists on using tariffs as an economic weapon against the U.S. trading partners with the pretext of leveling the playing field and subtext of national security.
The Thailand government is planning to use cloud seeding to drive out air pollution. Officials in Thailand are planning to use artificial rain to clear severe episodes of air pollution in Bangkok. The technique involves dropping vast quantities of chemicals in the clouds such as silver iodide, potassium iodide, dry ice, solid carbon dioxide, and liquid propane to cause the formation of ice crystals that accelerate the breakup of showers. They are also considering producing electric vehicles as part of the solution. In recent days, harmful particles have reached well above the limit set by the World Health Organization. The WHO recommendation for the maximum daily exposure is a level of 25 micrograms per cubic meter, but Thailand is at 102 micrograms per cubic meter. Pralong Dumrongthai, the Director General of the Pollution Control Department in Thailand, stated that more than 50% of the problem comes from the diesel cars and prescribed burns represent 35%. The governor of Bangkok has ordered the 50 districts to implement prescribed burns during the harvest season.
More protest in Jerusalem in opposition to Netanyahu's Gaza strikes. Protesters recently gathered in Jerusalem marching towards the home of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in opposition to the government's continuance of the war in Gaza. The tenuous ceasefire was broken when Israel began bombarding the Gaza Strip with bombs, which ignited an outrage amongst many Israelis in fear for the lives of the remaining hostages. According to authorities, the strikes killed more than 400 Palestinians, eliminating the ceasefire that had been in place since last January. Protesters believe that the government's recent actions will contribute to the death of those still held in captivity by Hamas. The protesters stated that the people are beginning to lose faith in their government and something needs to change within the system. The protesters also stated that they believe that the Israeli government is headed in the wrong direction and it is dangerous for their democracy. It is believed that there are currently 24 living hostages remaining and that Hamas holds the remains of 35 deceased. Netanyahu said the attack was only the beginning.
This is a forthrider news break.